Welcome back to week 5 of all the work, my restoration slash repair slash refurbishment of my 1987 Ski Supreme. Now if you're just coming off of week 4's video, you may notice the spontaneous cleaning event that the boat just underwent. You can see the orange glow coming off of those stringers, looking beautiful. I am continuing to clean up the boat more and more. That dust storm from cutting the glue off the stringers really did a number on the thing. So I took a wet towel and just dragged it down the middle of the boat, trying to get all the dust out of there. And now I'm getting smarter. That shop vac that I just put in there has a orbital sander hooked up to it. I went and got 40 grit sandpaper from Home Depot. However, I got the sandpaper that sticks onto the sander, not the stuff that velcros onto the sander, so that was a waste of time. So I was planning on cleaning up and doing a little bit more sanding with the vacuum attached orbital sander. However, I got the wrong grit sandpaper, so now I am back to the 150 grit sandpaper, just seeing what that thing will do in terms of cleaning up the sides and the gunnels, and really just kind of testing out how it's going to work in the future, hopefully with the proper grit sandpaper. It seems like every time I pull out the vacuum cleaner, I find new little pockets of dust and debris, and I just try and clean it up as much as I can. I figure the more I clean, the more often I clean, the better off it'll be long term. And I know that I'm never going to really get ahead of it, but I just want to stay on top of it. Here we go, the Sawzall is out, and I am cutting the tops off of the first stringer. You can see this is my first dig in, and there's the results. Fully saturated foam. I decided to cut the tops off of the stringers in large sections, and I thought I was being pretty smart by leaving the top rounded edge so that each top of the stringer kind of curves over the top. So I'll have that structural 90 degree when I re-glass it. This turns out to be maybe not a mistake, but certainly not the optimal way to do it. And we'll get into what the optimal way to do it is when we get to the next stringer. I am doing one stringer at a time to try and save myself from any screw-ups, which turns out to be a good thing. Using my trusty crowbar, digging into the foam. It is slow, tedious work, but at the end of the day, it's really not that hard other than just sitting in these cramped positions all the time. And the foam is really, really wet, so it feels good to be pulling out bad foam and doing the right thing and hopefully really improving my boat. Here we move into an evening session of work, continuing to just cut out more foam, and here I find a giant void where there was no foam. So the back 3 feet of this stringer never had foam. So there's foam, and then boom, this is the way I cut into it, no foam. It was at this point that I started to think that maybe I'm going to actually improve the boat with these repairs. That if I didn't have foam in the back of the boat before, that now that I'll have foam, I'll have a more structurally sound stringer and a more structurally sound boat. I estimate that I pulled 30 to 40 pounds of wet foam out of this one stringer. So that'll be great weight savings later. I do want to mention that I have supported the outside of the boat while these repairs are going on. I used an old pallet that I had on the side of the house, and then I stacked a bunch of lumber on top of that. You can see where I spaced it out with a paint stick. Each paint stick moves progressively shorter forward, that way it matches the contour of the boat, so that top lumber is kind of sitting beveled under the boat. Put all that under there and just lowered the tongue jack down until there was weight on that thing, and that's what's been supporting the boat the whole time I've been working on these stringers. Here I am spending a nap time installing a ceiling cord. I've been getting really annoyed with my power cord coming across to the side of the boat, so I am just taking a little time and getting it routed up top, and boom, now I have a cord coming down from the ceiling. Really improving my workspace, kind of figuring it out as I go, but that's a happy little improvement there. Now I'm fabbing up my little engineering piece that's going to go in there, and realizing I still have no clue how this is all going to work. The parenting gods must have been smiling on me this day, because I got a second nap out of the boys. So I came back out to the boat, a little soapy water, and I am washing down the stringers. I'm trying to wash down all the places where I'm going to be glassing later. This does turn out to be a bit of a mistake, as usual, because once I pour the foam, which you'll see soon, I make another mess and then I have to clean up around that. But at the time, I was thinking, oh, I'm getting this clean, and I'll lay some glass and everything's going to be hunky-dory. What do we have here? I've been putting in a lot of hours on the boat recently, and in search of a quicker night of work, I enlisted my wife Amanda to come out and finish vacuuming and cleaning and soaping down these stringers while I prepped for the foam work the next morning. I watched Ron Tanis's How to Foam a Boat video, and he, in a kind of an aside, says if it's hot, and then he stops in his thought, and basically I got the notion that you don't want to pour foam when it's really hot outside. So I am prepping the night before, and then I'm going to wake up in the morning when it's much cooler out and pour my foam into the stringer while it's cool. And actually I'll end up talking to Ron Tanis after I pour that first round of foam, and he confirms that that was the right decision. So here we go, 5:37. I set the alarm for 5:30. The coffee was made and ready for me when I got down the stairs, and I am mixing up my first batch of foam. I believe I went 8 ounces and 8 ounces in that first round of foam, and then I poured it in, and it muffin topped pretty hard right there. But I felt like it was a pretty solid first pour, so I go back in. There's second pour, coming out like bread, and you can see that, yeah, that was a huge pour. A lot of waste coming out the sides. Not super ideal, but getting it done. Last pour goes in. I get a lot of muffin topping from the foam again. I'm definitely getting more waste than I want out of this, but I'm a rookie and I have no idea what I'm doing, so I guess it is what it is. Here I sit down and write out what I did in the project. I don't know why, because I ended up throwing that piece of cardboard away. And then I decided to do a little test pour. 50 mils and 50 mils of foam, see how much it expanded. And there you can see it blowing out of that cup there on the bottom right. Did you see that zoom in? Mad editing skills. Well, it is early in the morning, so more staring at the boat and thinking about it. Here's a quick shot of my boat inspiration board. The great thing about pouring foam in the morning is that night I can come out and cut the tops off. That's just a standard flat blade saw, cut the tops off, and then sand it down, clean it up, and get it ready for glass work. I did have significant bulging in the stringer. You can see where I cut the tops off because I made such a huge cut in the top that it bulged out. Possibly that was due to the excess pressure I put on the top when the foam was coming through. I don't think this is the end of the world. I did talk to Ron Tanis in between pouring the foam and now, and he agreed. I am going to just put a layer of 1708 fiberglass mat on top of it. That's the real good structural stuff, and that should be okay, especially if I fill those voids on either side of the stringer with foam as well. Then I'll have a good pancake situation. I should get good performance from that stringer. Back to sanding with the orbital sander and the vacuum. This is way better. I still don't have that good heavy grit sandpaper that I need, so I tried to sand off some of the gel coat from that little tab right there, but that wasn't working with my 150 grit. Now I'm going to cut a 1708 roll holder out of the passenger seat. I'm going to be cutting away where all that blue tape is eventually for the L-seat mod. So for the time being, I'm going to use the material that's there in a handy way to hold my 1708 and make the project easier when I'm fiberglassing. I'm in the early stages of selling my truck, so there's going to be a lot of text messaging going on in the future, which is absolutely infuriating. It was a terrible time to be selling a truck. Day 24 marks the first day where I'm actually putting the boat back together. I'm going to fiberglass in the first stringer. I'm getting set up here. Take the fan out, which is kind of a mistake. I end up putting the fan back into the back of the boat, blowing at me. It makes a huge difference. I do make some pretty serious mistakes here. I did do a practice fiberglassing session the night before where I worked on a golf cart that I have. It's got a cracked shell, and so I took the opportunity to try and fix that. Now, that didn't go well, but I think I learned enough from it to actually lay some glass into the boat. Now, what I started off here with is I wanted to shore up the outside of this stringer. It is sticking to the floor, but there's a little bit of a gap here, so I wanted to lay some fiberglass and get that thing sealed to the floor. I don't want these stringers moving around anymore, which as I tear the foam out of the other side, you'll see that it's moving around quite a bit. I try and do my own way here by just tearing up some chop strand mat and laying it down next to the stringer and building up a little bit of a spacer and then laying fiberglass over top of that. Now, it did not go well. I did not acetone and clean the surface first. Mistake number one. My thought process here of just using shredded up chop strand mat was silly. I bought some silica beads that thicken up a resin and turn it into a peanut butter. This is stuff I saw on YouTube, and I should have just been using that from the beginning. And there's the silica beads that I just pulled out. Now I'm making a true peanut butter, and I just didn't have the confidence to try all of these different techniques that I'd seen on YouTube, and I was kind of trying to do it my own way, which is silly, but that's what I felt better about, and I don't know. Now, I'm laying out the Trevea tape. That is the tape that when I screw the floor in, the floor and the screws will bite into that Trevea tape. That goes down first on top of the foam. And there's my 1708 fiberglass. It's a engineered material that is very structurally sound. Now, I should have poured resin first, wetted it all out, then laid the Trevea tape, poured more resin on top of that, got that wet, then laid the 1708 down, then wetted on top of that, and worked it all in. But I was a little gun shy after talking to Ron Tanis. So I was worried about my work time with each batch of resin, so I skipped that step. And again, just another mistake that I made. When I work it in, I have to mix up multiple batches of resin while I'm doing this. That's probably not the greatest thing in the world here. I'm just stirring up the resin. Now I'm back at it, working it in, and just trying to do the best I can with a giant 12-foot section of glasswork that needs to come out perfect on my first try. At this point, I'm only halfway through the week, and I'm already at a 14-minute video here, so I'm going to split this week in half, and I'll come back later in the week with an upload of how I finish out all the resin work and start digging into the second stringer.